school went away for 4 or 5 or 6 weeks.
I've heard that last year, but like that.
Everyone wants to stand for the pledge of allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Okay, Mayor Westergaard.
Yes.
Frank.
Yes.
Moller.
Yes.
Stankin.
Yes.
Holtman.
Yep.
Beckman.
Yes.
Obviously, no public forum. Consent agenda, any additions or corrections?
No.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call.
Okay, Holtman.
Mhm.
Beckman.
Yes.
Frank.
Yes.
Moller.
Yes.
Stankin.
Yes.
Administrative report?
Just you'll see in your packet a note about our dock management agreement that expired at the end of the year. We do have a meeting scheduled then with the DNR to discuss the renewal of that agreement, and that meeting is scheduled then on the 17th of January. We'll start to work on that. A few other things for you as far as the council planning session would be next Monday. And so I gave you, it has an agenda on top of it, but it's that project list again. Gave that to you, if you would. If you would go through there and score those projects, and we'll do something similar to what we did last year about what you thought was important projects there. And if you could get that to me by next Monday morning, then I'll go ahead and score that before the council session that evening, okay? But also on the back of that then is a priority statement. You know, it's my 3 one-year priorities and my 3 2 to 3 year priorities. These are the things that I'd like to work on. So I'd like to have you fill out that form. We'll compare that and contrast it then with last year and see if there's any difference in what the priorities would be, and then also the top 3 items that each one of you would like to focus on. I'd like to identify those items and really just be able to talk about them and explain why they are priority items to you. Some specific things that we're going to work on next week would be stuff about Outlot 20, stuff about an electric project, and drainage on Highway 175. I want to make sure that we talk about those things during our planning session next Monday at 7 o'clock.
And when did you want these back by?
By Monday morning. If you get them to me by Monday morning, that'd be great. We host a couple of regional meetings here during the month of January. We host Sac County League, and that's the 12th, Thursday the 12th. It's out at Docket, and social time begins at 6:30. And the following week, on the 19th, we also host Northwest Iowa League, and that's out at the Docket also. Social time there is 5:30. So
And that's what date?
the 19th.
19th and
12.
The 12th and the 19th, they're Thursdays. Good.
Okay, resolution 2301 is listing our gross salaries. Everything's been corrected.
Yes.
Need a motion to approve.
So moved.
So, second.
Roll call.
Boltman.
Yes.
Moller.
Yes.
Frank.
Yes.
Beckman.
yes.
Stankin.
Yes.
Okay, 2301 is approving our fire chief again.
Yeah, so Jimmy was appointed or elected by the department to be fire chief.
Second.
Roll call.
Boltman.
Yes.
Beckman.
Yes.
Frank.
Yes.
Moller.
Yes.
Stankin.
Yes.
Okay, 2303 is approving the membership of the fire
Motion to
department.
approve.
Second.
Roll call.
Okay, Moller.
Yes.
Frank.
Yes.
Beckman.
Yes.
Boltman.
Yep.
Stankin.
Yes.
2304, you want to talk about that?
This is just approving contract for the Northwest Loop project. The contract has been executed by the contractors, GM Contracting. their contract is there and the bond is there too. Everything's in order and ready for approval.
Make that motion.
I'll second it.
Roll call.
Frank,
Yes.
Mulder,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes.
Boltman,
Yep.
Beckman.
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna talk about the maintenance shed roof. We have Brian from.
Yeah, Brian is on Zoom here with us. Brian, can you hear us?
Is he down south somewhere? Well, that's Dave. We must have lost him.
Bill's got his green screen. You got no audio.
Hey Dale, can you hear us at all? Okay.
Somebody's got up. Yeah.
How about Dave Jennett? Can you hear what's going on?
Yeah, I got you on Zoom.
Yep, great. And Brian from Nohava? Well, he doesn't even have a microphone next to his video signal there.
Can't call him that
I
phone.
don't know. Can you?
I just texted him, see if he can hear us. Cause he said he was gonna use his phone.
Well,
Okay. You wanna just give him a call and maybe bring your phone over here?
Don't let Scott touch it, you want me to.
He said he can't hear us.
Does he have his audio turned on Zoom?
Hello?
How's it going, Brian?
Pretty good.
Do you have your audio turned on?
Apparently not.
If not, you wanna just talk on speakerphone? Cause they can all hear you.
Yeah, I can see you guys, but I can't hear you.
Okay. I'll just leave my phone out here.
Okay, sorry about that.
Nope, you're fine.
Frank, can you just start off, tell us a little bit about this proposed project, then your product, and then ultimately work into the notion of installation?
Well, we're proposing putting a Duralast roof on over the building there, and they talked about adding insulation. So basically what we're gonna be doing is putting flute fill in between the metal ribs, and then the insulation on top of that to get the R factor boosted up for you. They put a Duralast PVC membrane on top of that, cover the entire building.
What is the R value?
Been doing Duralast roofs since 1983. Had real good luck when I installed about 25 million square foot of them. So, yeah, I got roofs in my area, been around about 25 years where we start to replace them now, so. But, is that what you guys are looking for?
What's the R value of that insulation then?
I think when we proposed, the flute fill was an R12, and then I think we proposed adding the additional R12 on top of that, so it'll be an R24.
And what we were talking about,
Say that again?
what we were talking about that one day was because of, we were talking about doing some, spray foam, and you said that, maybe the, insurance company, unless you covered it up with steel, wouldn't like that, correct? Cause you gotta have a fire
Yeah,
barrier.
they're talking about spraying foam on the bottom side.
Yes.
But this would be putting on the top
On the
side
top
of the
side.
membrane, put the steel on the warm side of the building.
Correct.
So I've done a lot of roofs like that. Cost-wise, it's probably a little more economical to do it the way we're proposing. I don't know if you got a bid from doing spray foam or not. I don't do spray foam.
Yep, no. I got ahold of 2 other people who never got back to me, Blizzard.
I'm having a hard time hearing you guys.
Yeah, so what's the cost of the addition for the R12 insulation over the whole roof?
Did we not send you a bid on that?
I did not get one.
Okay, I believe we're probably looking at about $2 a square foot. I thought I gave my office send a bid over to you, but maybe they didn't do that.
roof investment base bid of $40,995.
have to double check my records tomorrow and get back to you on that. I'm pretty sure I wrote a bid on that, told him to send it to you.
Yep, nope, I did not receive anything.
Okay, then that's on me. So, the additional R12 is should be right around $2 a square foot. Your building was approximately 6,000, if I remember correctly.
Right, yep.
So you'd be probably, I think, additional $12,000 to do that.
Okay.
And that's what you recommend, putting that insulation up there?
Excuse me?
That's your recommendation to put the insurance or the insulation up when we do it?
I didn't hear that question, I'm sorry.
That's your recommendation to do the insulation when we're doing the roof?
I definitely would, since you're having some condensation problems on the bottom side, they'll definitely take care of that, they'll pretty much make a new building out of it. So everybody have done it that way, I've not said they wish they hadn't done it, but yeah, it's that old of a building, you're gonna get some vapor leaks and so on and so forth, and this will pretty much take care of that problem, give you a real good system up there.
And talk to them about the warranty, you know, the 15-year warranty, and then there's that additional 5 years for $700.
Yeah, 15-year warranty is your best, most comprehensive coverage. They've got a clause in there for consequential damages if that roof system fails due to manufacturer's defect. They'll pay to fix inside damage. Another manufacturer does that. It's probably got the best coverage in the industry on the 15-year, and that's built into the cost of the original bid. They do have an extended warranty, a 20-year warranty for additional cost. The thing about the 20-year warranty is they give you a little more time, but they take some coverage away. So you're getting 5 more years, but they do not cover the consequential damages. But with that being said, I've never had a roof failure since 1993 where we've invoked the consequential damage clause. So I guess it's kind of all what you're looking for, what you're most comfortable with. I personally sell mostly 15-year roofs, but some guys like the extra coverage, so it's a cheap investment if you want to spend the money, but you do get less coverage if you want to compare it to warranties.
Got a question for you.
Okay.
In the event that we need something happens, does insurance or the warranty depreciate less every year?
No, it's not a prorated warranty. 15-year warranty is not a prorated warranty. If that roof fails in year 14 and 10 months, they'll pay to fix it.
Okay.
It's not a prorated warranty. It's 100% coverage for the full 15 years.
The one question was the 20-year prorated then? If you did that extra 5 years?
The 20 year is not prorated. It's just
An
doesn't
extension
cover
of,
have as much coverage.
It just doesn't cover the damage if you get a leak.
So is it still labor and material though on that extra 5 years?
Yes, labor and material 100%, yes sir.
Okay, great.
If we did this, what's your time frame?
Oh, you're probably looking at early spring, so April-ish. So,
Has he been
we got
down
about
with this?
probably 90 days worth of work
I believe
booked
so.
out, but Mother Nature's been kind of difficult to deal with here as of late.
And asking, he's been the one here to look at this?
Brian, you came here and looked at this building, didn't you?
Yeah, that was me.
Yep.
And this is what he recommends, right?
Yep. We're thinking, hang on a minute.
Actually, my wife pulled up the price I gave you for the additional 2 layers of 2-inch isolos, $14,580 to put the additional R22 on top of the roof. So.
$14,580?
Resend that bid to you tomorrow.
Okay.
so what's the total of the bid then, if you include that?
55,800, some odd dollars, 56,000 basically.
Chris, I think this is Dean.
Yep.
Right. I think that's pretty, that's what.
Thank you, Doc.
still stewing around, hang on a second.
That's fine. I guess they did send it to a Chris.
Yeah, Chris Brotherton at the lumberyard.
Yep, that's who's got it.
How's there today, didn't say anything.
55, total's 50, without the extra warranty, 55,985.
Did we have money budgeted for this?
We didn't, we did not have money budgeted for it, but we had talked last time about where we would be able to come up with the money for it, so it's fine.
It's budgeted, but
It is.
I'm gonna make a motion that we accept this bid and get that thing repaired.
Can you pull that up?
I'll second it.
If it matches the one he's gonna send.
Yeah.
Sure.
What's that? Chris is the guy that,
Are we doing the 15 or the 20?
it's just
15. 15-year,
15-year warranty, we're talking about the 15. We have a motion and a second, we have a roll call.
So, yeah, so the motion and the second then to go ahead and accept this bid from NOAA would be the 15-year warranty.
for $55,985. Is that correct?
So he doesn't know what the charge is.
Oh,
Okay.
And try to get a rough completion date.
I'll call him.
Yeah,
Okay.
Dean will work on that.
Great.
Roll call.
Brian,
should we,
yes, sir.
um, I will call you
this motion
tomorrow.
will
Does
just
that work?
cover that.
Yeah, give me a call.
Okay.
Cell phone.
And then
Okay.
the rest of the details.
There, we gotta have a definite.
I mean, just so we could start moving forward with this, and if we have to approve a full contract, we could just. Right?
Yeah. Hopefully they get you at the spring.
Sounds good, yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Just so we get them on the agenda and.
Yeah, get on the list and work.
Right.
Good.
Roll call.
Waltman,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yes.
Muller,
Yes.
Frank,
Yes.
Beckman.
Yes.
Very good.
Great, thank you.
Okay, we're doing the boulders development. You want to see if Dave has anything to say?
Yeah, Dave, so Dave, can you hear us a little bit? And we're at the Boulders Development charitable contribution.
Right, I looked into the ramifications of the city signing the form, and the IRS says that the donee, which is the city, would not have any, we don't have to approve of the valuation. We're not bound by that in any way. So the only thing that we're required to do is, upon receipt of a donation or a gift, is to acknowledge that we did receive the gift. But the form that we're being asked to sign doesn't have anything to do with how they and the IRS hash it out from there. I do think that if we do not sign the form, I think we would have to return the gift, which in other words would be to return the real estate.
Why would we have to do that if that was not in the agreement to start with? That they were going to use this survey at this, you know, when they gifted that to us, was that in any type of an agreement at the time?
No,
Then I don't understand why we would have to return the gift.
well, if we're not going to acknowledge the gift, then that would be the next step.
But we're not saying we're not acknowledging the gift, we're saying that we don't acknowledge the value that they're putting on it.
That's right. Well, by signing that form, we're not acknowledging the evaluation.
Then can we take that valuation off?
We didn't put it in there in the first place, they did.
Right.
It's their form. I mean, all we're doing is acknowledging that we did receive the gift. And the gift is the difference between, what do we pay for that, 50?
Yep.
Yep.
Yes.
50.
I think we paid 50 versus whatever it is that they're claiming it's, they're claiming for a deduction.
We were only asking 150,000 for the entire project when we started. It sure jumped up to 450 pretty fast.
I guess my concern, Dave, is that if we approve this and it has that number of 4, whatever it is on there, that sets precedence for other properties in the city, like by Dollar General and so forth,
Down the highway corridor.
down the highway corridor. I mean, is that a,
Well, I looked at the appraisal that they submitted, and they have 4 comps on there. None of them were commercial property. You might argue that the land that Mid-American bought, which I think is north of APCO, is somewhat of a commercial property, but they're usually using it for storage of their work materials. So I'm not obviously I'm not real confident in their appraisal, but that's their appraisal. The comps that are in there have to do with residential property, except for that Mid-America property, and I'm not sure that's a very good.
right?
I wouldn't be real confident using that appraisal with the IRS if I was on the other side of this thing.
Because there's,
As far as the exact question that was asked, which is setting a precedent, the comps in there are not for commercial property, in my opinion. You can argue the store where they store whatever it is they're storing up their windmills or blades or whatever. That's somewhat commercial, but it's a lot more like industrial.
Dave, he didn't, you got a copy of the appraisal there.
Yeah,
Pick,
I have it. I don't have it with me, but I did look at it.
okay, so that one that you're talking about, where you're talking about them storing the windmills, the way he come up with his figures on what the value of that is what they paid for the total price of the ground, and then he's only using one parcel of it to divide out the square footage. Same way with the one on Crescent Park Drive.
Right.
So it's an inaccurate appraisal because he's not using the total square footage of the ground that was purchased for the dollar amount.
Yeah, he's prorating it.
no,
He's not using the total, so for example, the one on Crescent Park Drive that was purchased for $120,000 was a total of 124,301 square feet. And he's only using 41,000 square feet.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, it's prorating the square footage. He's using the square footage dollar amount and applying it to this.
No, he's using the total purchase amount and dividing that square footage value out with just a partial of that square footage amount for that dollar amount. He did it on the one for 120, and he did it on the one for 890,000.
one for
Yeah,
100.
the 890. The 890, was that the Mid-America one?
Yes, on Guard Avenue, it's over by Odebo.
Yeah, okay.
And actually, the truest comparison for him to be using would be the Evapco purchase from Hoag's. And he didn't use that one, and that's right across the road. That'd be about the truest comparison he could have found.
And that would be much lower, wouldn't it?
Much, much lower.
Yeah, so,
So with the information we have in front of us, I'm gonna make a motion, we do not move forward with the value of the non-cash charitable contribution.
I'm gonna second that.
Right, Dave, are you saying that they could force us to give this property back to them?
if we don't acknowledge receiving the gift, then they could ungift it, so to speak.
But hasn't it already been deeded over to us? So,
Yes.
I mean,
That's acknowledgement.
that's acknowledgement. And whether we go with this or not, it's still acknowledgement that it's been deeded over to the city.
We have title to the real estate. The problem is that, first of all, this was not discussed at the time that we entered into the agreement with them. And second of all, there doesn't seem to be any other recourse for them if we don't acknowledge we received the gift, which would be whatever the value is over the 50, then then we're not accepting the gift, even though we do have title to the land. Somebody would have to file a quiet title action. It could get complicated. And then they also have the option to repurchase it after a certain period of years also, if the project does not go forward.
And they've had that in place all along, though.
Yeah, they've had
That's
that
true.
in place. This came up after the agreement was done with them having the option to have the property back if it did not follow through.
First right of refusal.
And that's fine, but this was nowhere in any of that agreement at the time.
No,
So aren't they then kind of changing the rules of the game?
they're bringing in a document that wasn't discussed and that the city didn't agree to. So then you get into IRS land, which is what happens when the donee will not acknowledge the receipt of the gift. And they have to have, that's part of the packet that they have to submit to even get on first base on this deduction.
It's not that we're not saying we don't acknowledge the gift, we're saying we don't acknowledge the value that they're putting on that gift after the fact.
And what I'm telling you is that the research I did said that signing this document is not an acknowledgement of the value of the gift, for the reasons we're all talking about.
This could put the city in some sort of a legal bind if we don't agree to it?
If we don't sign the document,
Yes,
or if we don't agree with the valuation,
either one.
well, I think we're gonna face some ramifications if we will not sign the form saying we received the gift. And my opinion and the opinion of some people that I did research on is that signing this document does not say that the donee agrees to the valuation placed on there. There's a couple, and there's a lot of other things too that are going into this, some of which the council's already brought up, which is I don't think those comps are gonna hold up anyway. Those comps are not comparable for starters, and then they seem to do a little cherry picking in there as to how they, which pieces of the ground they're using for the valuation. If I was this appraiser, I would do this, but that's none of my business. It's not my business is looking out for the city, and I'm just telling you the two things, that I think that unless we're willing to return the gift, we're gonna have to sign some form of an acknowledgement of receipt of the gift. And if not, then we have to face the consequences of whatever that entails. Even though we already have the deed, the short answer for them is, well, they'll just purchase the property back for the option price in 3 years.
But either way, we could have some legal problems.
Can't we come back to them and have them give more realistic figures?
Okay, let's talk about legal problem. Legal problem about signing the form, there are no legal problems, is what I'm telling you. Number two, if we don't acknowledge the gift, we may have some legal problems in terms of we're not accepting the gift. Is that a rescission of the original contract and the deed that was given to us? And three, I don't think they're ever gonna I don't wanna express an opinion on the validity of their deduction because they're not my client and we're in an open meeting.
Is there such a thing, Dave, as acknowledging the gift but questioning the value?
It's not a part of what we're being asked to do. We're not validating their valuation of it.
It's right on here, $440,000.
So
Cash charitable contribution.
If we're citing this, we're agreeing with their valuation though. And we're not agreeing with it, first of all, because the comps are not what they should be.
They're not what they stated in the appraisal. They're not forthright.
I don't think
I
there's
agree with
a,
you. I I agree with everything that's being said. But I'm also telling you that it's somewhat of a red herring because signing that document does not indicate the Donnie's approval of the valuation. We could probably write that on there. We don't agree with the valuation. But that's gonna be a red flag to the IRS also.
I guess that was.
Well, that's not our problem, though,
really
that
the
would be
question.
their problem, wouldn't it?
That's what I'm saying, it's not our problem at all. The only issue that I've heard that may have been a problem would have been the use of this valuation as precedent when the city wants to acquire other pieces of commercial property. And I think we've answered our own question there, that this appraisal, I would have a lot of fun with it in court, I'll just say that. Because I don't believe the comps are proper, and I think it was Dale pointed out some other machinations with the calculations.
But on one hand, we have no legal obligation, we're not gonna be in trouble, but the other way, if we do it, we could be in the line of some sort of legal process.
Right, and that would come from Boulders, I would assume.
Yep.
I'm sure you're right.
Should I explore them coming in with a different valuation?
That'd be much appreciated, because it's,
Comparing apples to apples.
Yeah.
or true square footage for the purchase price.
Yeah, I get all that, I pointed out to you that the 4 comps they picked, first of all, 3 are residential as far as I can tell, and I might be wrong about that.
Well, two of them were,
Vapco bought some property from somebody that was what type of property?
farmland.
Ag land, yeah.
Ag land, well, see, there's a whole different ballgame there too.
Well, this is ag land, it's being,
If this is ag land.
Hay
then-
ground,
it's,
been that way for a number of years.
Well, then that vouches for the ag land comparable then. Usually when you do comps, you use the same type of property or uses of the property that you're looking at. They're valuing this as, or they identified this, I think, as commercial property in that appraisal. I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me, but,
Dave,
and then they go out and they pick up ag land, a couple residential developments it look like, and then that construction site, which is industrial.
so Dave, would you be more comfortable with this if you talked to him and said, we need a realistic one, or? Because right now I have a motion and a second to do it.
I'm comfortable talking to them about it, but here's the deal. I would assume that they think they know what they're doing, and I'm gonna come in there and tell them, if I had anything to do with your side of this scenario, I would not put my name on anything that was going into the IRS, because this is a heavily audited area of the tax law. These things get, I mean, they disallow these quite a bit. Most of the cases that you see on this is where they disallowed like $24 million worth of charitable deductions.
and there's 87,000 more agents to do it.
I guess what I'm saying is, I really don't think they're gonna file it. But I really don't want the council to rely on that, because I have no idea. But that's just my opinion. And they probably got some people that say that they know what they're doing, so. And I don't wanna get in that argument with them, it's not my job.
Well, we have a motion and a second to not sign the agreement. Roll call.
But we could be going, we could have legal action taken against.
Yeah, if we do this, we have a chance. I hate to say
Well, I
it.
guess, yeah, what the other,
Since we're talking about legal action, can we talk about this in closed session?
I would prefer that, actually. I wish this had all been a closed session, because I'll probably get in trouble for what I've said already.
Let's just.
we'd have to.
So
withdraw the
you'll
motion.
have to rescind your motion, and then I make the motion to go into closed session and talk about it.
I'll rescind my motion and move into closed session.
Can we do
We
that?
can't,
We can't do that right
we
now.
can't go into closed
No,
session.
that's what I said.
No, we can't
No.
go into it tonight.
Next meeting.
Yep.
Have you rescinded your motion? then?
Yes, I'll rescind it.
Dave will work on a closed session at the next council meeting. Does that work for you?
Yeah, I think there'll be two of them, I think.
Okay.
Okay, so yep, the motion has been rescinded then, and we will, take up this issue then in closed session at the next meeting.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
Okay, water.
Okay, I'm hanging up.
Okay,
All right, thanks.
Bye.
okay, Water Department financial report. You gotta do something?
Yeah, I do want you to, we'll take a look at that report, but before we go there, I wanna go to the memo, page 3, and really just talk a little bit about one of the major drivers of expenses in the water utility, or any of our funds deals with how we pay our people. And, second paragraph down there, it's, shows how we currently allocate those costs. So, like for Dean, 100% would be paid out of water, and Tommy was 50/50 road use and water. Lester came on here recently, really as an additional employee. Between him and Matt, we have one additional employee. So, which is currently being paid out of water, and then one paid out of sewer. So, we have talked with Lester and talked with Dean, getting everything in place then to have Lester slide over in the spring to be the buildings and grounds foreman. And everybody's on board with this notion, and it's all gonna come to pass. So, we would look to make some changes then about how we would allocate these wages then. And really, the two changes would be to Lester and then to Dean. We're gonna get a portion of Dean's salary then to come out of electric also. But then, 2/3 of the year, Lester would be in the Parks Department, funded out of the general fund, and then 1/3 of the year with coming out of the water. So when we look at these differences from year to year in the line item for salaries out of water, that's the major changes there would be how folks are allocated.
Let me ask you a question. If Lester's gonna be our lead parks guy, but we're gonna keep him on year round like we discussed.
Mm-hmm.
In November to March, is that the normal time frame? Is it, I guess, is it closer to a quarter of the time that he should be on the water, or is it closer to 33%?
When we had always had Eric and Mark as 7.5 month guys. 1st of March to 15th of November. So it ends up being about 8 months.
Okay.
So just with that though, I'm on page 21 now, if we take a look at that financial recap of the water fund. I'm gonna start down at the bottom as far as what the fund balance is. Fund balance has been, we, as a rule, we have never kept a substantial amount of fund balance in the water fund. Just really never have, and we've, when we do some projects, we look to fund big projects from other areas, and that's just kind of been the way that we've looked at the water fund. But so you can see what the fund balance has been, and then over the past several years, whether we might have revenues in excess of expenses a little bit, or sometimes expenses in excess of revenues quite a little bit. But the past 4 years then, including the budget for next year then, it's proposed then that it would be running a deficit, expenses over revenue. Excuse me. So, taking a look up at the top of that page first, where you got water sales, and they're always right around, but between $255 and $262,000, just pretty static. You know, and the last rate increase that we had for the water utility was in 2014. So, any of these numbers here, there'd been no rate increase associated with it at the time. So, water sales do remain pretty static over time, and really to look at ways to increase revenue, it would be through increase in the rate. When we look at the expenditures again, one of the main expenses is those salaries. So if you compare what they have been over time versus what they would be proposed for the future, and going down then from the high point which had been last year.
Do we have in our rate schedule, do we have a minimum for the water?
We do. Yeah. So
And how do we, and so like these summertime places around the lake where we go and shut the water off, do they still pay a minimum in the time frame?
yes, they do. So when the way we charge for water, there's a minimum. Boy, I wish I would have wrote that down. Just in rough terms, about $10 for a minimum charge. Okay, about $5 for, it's $4.50 something for 1,000 gallons of water. Okay, so within that minimum charge, which is actually I think 11 something, you get your first 1,000 gallons of water free. Okay, we figure on average, the average user, looking at a residential user, uses about 3,000 gallons of water a month.
But see, them numbers are skewed so badly, because you're using all the houses in town for the total usage, and we have so many, and we're gaining more part-time residents.
Yeah, but other, let me
You know, so that skews that
tell you
number.
how we come up with 3,000 though, Dale, was, because Kay and I did this, we went through and ended up with, we just said, here's 15, whether it's families, whether it's couples, whether it's older folks living on their own, we just kind of picked and choose people and looked up their actual usage and based an average off of that. She wasn't able to come up with a mathematical average of what the average customer has. We're not able to provide that. So that's where we come up with 3,000.
Don't we have a number of meters that we charge out?
Sure, oh, absolutely.
And then you could take that number of meters that we charge out and divide it by the total usage and get your average?
Some have 2 meters.
Well, some do, but.
You know, the reason I'm going down this road or this path is, you know, for example, Kay and Bill just sold their house to a person that's not gonna live here year round.
Mhm.
We've got several of them houses in town, and it's gaining more and more strength all the time, that people are buying these for part-time residents, and, you know, especially if they're shutting the water off. You know, so
They
they're
can
only
shut-
paying the minimum at $10.
They say they can shut the water off. Here's what happens during the wintertime for any services. Folks can say, I'm gonna shut my water off. They're gonna physically shut the water off, they sure can. We continue to charge them monthly minimums anyway, okay? Everybody is charged monthly minimums. The real regulation is, if you shut off your services, you can stop billing, okay? But the reconnection fee is equal to the number of minimums of the months for which it was disconnected.
So,
So there's no financial benefit to do that.
right, so out on the Provo side is where I'm thinking of the most, probably happens, where you guys have to go out and physically shut the water off.
Yes,
So, then do we charge for that?
we do. If there's a physical shut off, it's $20.
And then we charge $20 to turn it back on?
No, $20 for an off and on,
So it's just $20.
$20 per year, yeah.
And I get them wanting to shut it off, trust me, I shut
Oh,
mine
sure,
off.
you do.
I shut mine off when we're gonna be gone for a week, inside my house. For a safety feature, in the wintertime.
So
Or school
just-
was sick or something.
Right, yeah. So as we're looking at this, and really for this information for tonight, I just wanted you to know the financial condition of the water fund. And when you look at the next pages, this is just saying, if there was increases of this percent, what happens to it for the next year, and the next year after that. So when you look at page 22 there, and it says there's the top line there where it says the rate increase could be 8%. And so you have increased revenues of 8%, and then what happens to it over the course of the next 3 years, assuming that that expenses escalate 3%. So then you look to the bottom line on that again, that if we raise an 8% increase, it covers costs for this first and second year, but even by the third year, then you're running a deficit on the expenses over revenues again. And then, so that page then shows 8% and 10%. Next page shows 12%, 14%, just as some, really just some numbers to really show you where we're at and what happens over time when you look at a rate increase like that.
So I'm looking back on page 22, just got 21, I'm sorry. You know, we had salaries were 59, then 71, then 54, then 64. What are we doing different now besides the normal pay increase? There's got to be something different.
Yeah, the biggest thing is that we had paid our superintendent out of electric before, so Bill, and of course Bill was paid a superintendent wage out of electric.
And we changed that, why?
We have more of a public works related person. So that's why I say, we have paid him out of water up until now, and it looked like to change that to half water, half electric.
We paid him out of electric up until now, the superintendent.
Dean, we paid out of water, we paid Bill out of electric, yeah.
But so back in 19 and 20, 2021, 18, 19, 17, 18, 18, 19, 19, 20, 20, 21, all of them salaries were way below what were the 21, 22.
Yes.
So what you did is just different allocated where the wages are coming from our personnel.
Yeah, that's a lot of, that's the difference, yeah.
So why did we change that allocation and then now it drains our water department?
Just to be representative of having the proper function pay for the labor.
And how much did do you have the figure, how much of our tax base income went up totally that we get for taxes in town?
It's 2%, what general fund taxes went up 2% this past year, that's
But
dollars.
how many dollars is that? Is that in here anywhere?
No,
So roughly, you know how much that is?
I don't think.
Because, and the reason I'm asking that question is, at some point in time, we're gonna have to take some more of our general fund and put it into our water fund to increase that, because of the employee salaries are gonna continue to go up each year if they want a raise, right? If you want a raise, it's gotta go up,
It does, yeah.
you know, but I don't necessarily think we need to raise our rates to cover that all the time when we're getting increased valuations in town. If money goes into the general fund, we could slide into these other departments as well.
Sure.
Isn't that an option as well?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely, it just has to do with, yeah, basically how you're,
Me
how you choose
personally,
to pay employees.
I would like to see a true average usage per household.
Okay, I can give you a mathematical average, Dale.
Well, that's what we want, is a mathematical average, because that's a true average household.
If you're looking at gross gallons
Divided by-
versus divided by users,
Yeah,
and you have any commercial or industrial user on there then too, I mean, we can't separate out. Let me make sure that I can tell you this right, because maybe we can, so if we can come up with total residential sales and total residential customers, I can give you an average.
well, I think that'd be useful information. And I'm just saying that because and I don't want to single out a person, but you have, I don't want, snowbird's not the right answer, summerbird, I guess you'd call it, that we have, you know, we're gaining the tax revenue off of their property taxes for stuff in town. And we should be able to benefit the rest of our departments out of all that general taxation as well, when we get that, not just the usage.
Sure, yeah.
Does that, Mike, explain that the right way?
Yeah, definitely.
Is everybody
When you
following
look
that?
at that, it is allocation of expenses maybe more than anything else.
Yeah, yeah.
About how you're allocating more expense to the general fund.
I'd like to see that, whenever we're gonna talk about this again before we go for rate increases, to break some of that stuff out and give us some options to what to look at.
Sure, I tell you what, I did not want to go to any notion about what a structure of a rate increase might look like. You know, this is intended to ease us into this
Right, yeah, I
idea
get
about
that.
where we're at with the financial status.
Yep, I appreciate that.
And really, that's kind of it for now. That we will bring some back and bring some different ideas on rates, but also some different ideas about cost allocation. So if we can continue to allocate some more cost to general fund, we'll look at that.
Okay, you want to review the draft as long as your voice will hold in there?
Yeah, let's,
What page is that? This is just the stuff that we're gonna start discussing.
yeah,
More
but
depth, right?
I tell you what, I want to start on page 30.
Cause that's the last page?
You beat me to it. Alright, we're moving along here. Good job there, Scott.
But we realize that you don't feel good, so just.
Wait, I tell you what, we're pretty tight on timeline here about getting a lot of stuff done before the end of the month. We gotta keep on task and get this done, so. But yeah, I wanted to start with not going through our plan, but I wanted to show you the things that were not included in the plan. Because many of these things would have been discussed last time when we did the departmental needs assessments, and folks would have given us a good rationale about why things are needed, and oftentimes it's that it's not in the plan because we plan to do it quicker. We're waiting. We're on page 30, though, Dave, because I want to talk just briefly about some of these items that you will not find in this capital improvements plan. And we're just going to talk down the list here about that overhead line south of Provost. We do plan to get a project together and get that bid out here in the next month or two. Hankey Electric and Streetlights, we had that discussion, but there's nothing pending there right now, so it's not included in the plan at all. Generator for fire station or city hall, still pending those grant applications. That says due in spring, but we would proceed with that as soon as we could. Mini golf project, I think, is interesting now, because I really was flummoxed by the notion that wasn't funded for that grant. I thought that was a fantastic grant application. Now we have that project, it's $55,000 project, which folks I know have really looked at that as being a really important project to do. I mean, it seems like there are things that we gotta do this spring, irregardless of whether you decide you wanna do the whole project or not. We gotta replace the carpet out there, and there's some concrete stuff, especially that bridge, which is not there anymore. Now it's
Did you
already
guys
been
get the
moved.
bridge picked up?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's moved over out of the way.
Out of the way?
Yes.
Okay, I was wondering about that.
So we have to attend to those things, so there'll be a project to be done in the spring, it's just a question how big that project is. Roof on maintenance shop, of course, okay, there's some concrete repairs, we would look to get a little project put together. to bid out again, these concrete repairs, and then the handicap parking at the post office in Market Square. Replacing the media, that's under contract. Leak detection program is in our budget right now, and we would intend to do that in the spring. Of course, the Evapco water line and the Northwest Loop, those are both under contract. Okay, the Northwest pressure system is not included in the capital improvements plan. So if you want to have that discussion about where we need to be with that, I mean, that would be a discussion item. It's not included in there. The Omni beacons, those have been ordered. Repairing that that Speaker Park storm sewer, again, that would be a spring project. Campground, whether we'd look at any concrete pad projects, anything like that, nothing is included in there, just really because we haven't really looked at even the notion of formulating a project yet, so nothing's pending, nothing's in the plan. Install that non-freeze hydrant, we'd like to do that in the spring. There's been discussion about sometime replacing a bathhouse. That could potentially be a FEMA storm shelter type of a project. Again, but nothing pending on that's not included in the plan. Nancy had pitched 50 amp for all campsites. That's not included in the plan then too. Addition to the campground office, she had pitched that idea about expanding the size of the campground office. That's not included. Before we had talked with previous councils about having a shade structure at the farmer's market. That's not included in there. Log cabin shingles, that's not included, but we've got to do something with that. We got to get something attended to in that shortly. Community center is not in the capital improvements plan. It's in the current budget, but we'll need to have that discussion about what the future, how we would account for that in the plans for the future. Another thing that is not written down here, but I'll have you write it down, it's not in the plan, is the digital sign. We need to more aggressively get after the repair on that digital sign, but then the council would consider whether you would still look at doing a replacement project of that sign, knowing that it's just what was it, $40-some thousand?
42, wasn't it? 40, I wrote down 45, I think it was 42, or 39, I don't know, something like that.
Then a lot of these items that the chief was very thorough about his explanation and his listing of items to be done for the police department. A lot of these things then would be proposed to be done in the spring, or to be done here real quickly, about a rifle, or in-car cameras, body cameras. Now they're large dollar items that when we purchase those things, it would exceed their budget for this year. And I know we had some discussion last time, it's a very positive discussion about wanting to get after this stuff pretty quickly. So do you still have that same feeling that you'd want to get after this, even if it's not a budgeted expense, and we would amend the budget then for it later on. And the back page shows a few of those few $100 things that the new desk is desk. New desk. And then those bottom two items there that are not included in the plan. This is the chief's request to hire another police officer, and the chief's request then to add a vehicle to the fleet. That's not included in there. Any questions or comments about those things that are not included in the plan? Let's flip back to page 24. Now, as we begin discussion on these items that are included in the plan, this, I guess, just knowing that it's only a planning document right now, it's not been equated over into the budget side of things to know that there's money to do all of this. Okay, these, for the most part, we'll think that most of these things can be done, But I'm gonna point out a few things specifically that, are very large issues that we would need to, specifically address during budget time. So, technology upgrade, we've budgeted $5,000 a year for technology upgrade, and it could be new computers, that type of stuff, or software. Get some new council chairs, a 4-year financial audit, so that amount is more than what it normally is, because it would be a full audit then instead of this agreed upon procedures report we get for the other 3 years. Business improvement grant, we have set aside that $25,000 for those improvement grants. Okay, and then, so here would be one, replacing the community entrance signs. And I'm sure we want to have some discussion about that, about whether that's something we want to proceed with right now, but that west sign is cracked and broken and really does need some attention.
Was that due to the accident up there, or was this just
It
from
was-
years of,
It might have been worse because of that, but it had been
shouldn't
cracked
the
long
insurance
before.
company step forward on that?
Oh, no, it was broken, it was broke before that, and they did, they fixed all the planter box and everything, that, they paid for everything that we claimed. Okay, in the electric, we fund our capital fund so that we have money to purchase these things in the future, so that'd be $30,000 set aside. Proposed to purchase that, the F-450 or some equivalent vehicle. Okay, and then basket truck set aside, so we're just setting aside money then for a basket truck. This says $40,000, and if you look back at year three would be a year that we would propose that we might buy it. We would not have saved anywhere close to the amount of money that would be needed to purchase that. So we would need to figure out what we would do if you wanted to follow through with the purchase in year 3. Replacing the hydraulic vac. Okay, then a couple of large projects then for the electric utility. Replacing that underground from the sub to the south, and then doing some type of a project on the substation with switch. So Jeff and Dean and I got together last week with the engineer from DGR and started the initial discussions about what a project would look like. So he will be attending the next council meeting then to start talking with the council then about what a project would look like. But if we look at something like that, you know, even those two little things right there, you can then end up with $1.8 million. Outlot 20, this would propose to have some type of expense for electric and street lights. Yeah, that's the same number that we used last year, but the fact is we don't even know what the plan would be there as far as what type of infrastructure would be needed. So think of that dollar as kind of a placeholder about what might be needed as we come to the future. Lakewood Partners, electric and street lights there too. Okay, fire department equipment bus, they are proceeding forward with that. Expect to hear stuff on that equipment bus, I think, within the next month for sure. Parks, again, setting aside money for capital fund, adding a feature for the splash pad. They do have some set aside funds already for that, and it's like $2,500 that they got, but they'll look at a feature that would be somewhere around $7,000 or $8,000. Excuse me. Aquatic herbicide, we are not going to propose to budget anything for harvester operations. And that's, you know, it can very much be subject to change, and if the water conditions change and the water clears up and we have to operate that, then we can still operate it. I'm just not proposing to budget any money for it. Although the DNR, this winter or spring, does have a commercial carp fishing unit lined up to come in and take a lot of carp out of and that could have a potential impact then on the clarity of the water. Okay, now one of these big items about, that we certainly need to have discussion on and just see what the next steps are there about Camp Crescent drainage. That Camp Crescent drainage and the Highway 175 drainage, that's gonna be a specific, discussion points for next week. Replace the lights and exhaust on bathhouse number 1 and 2. And my only point there, I guess, is that maybe that might even get done earlier than budget time, because it just needs to be done. If we replace that 2019 Toro with something similar, about 12,000, if we look to replace that Kubota with, because they want something with the front mount sprayer and a broom or a snow blower. Anyway, that's looking to be about 22.
I just got a dumb question. I'll ask it a different time anyway.
Some tables for the Centennial House and a TV for the south side of the Centennial House. And this would propose then that we would buy that washer and dryer for the camp staff. It talked about whether there would be any space in the office to do that, and there just isn't. But there's the space where the washer and dryer used to be. It's in the east bathhouse. There's the east door to the east bathhouse. Services from the outside, and the space would be available. We could get a washer and dryer there for staff use. For police department, it would be time to purchase a vehicle and look then at purchasing computers then during this next budget year also, and a new radar for the Ram truck. Spike strips. Okay, ballistic helmets and ballistic shields, those type of things. I know we had some discussion when the chief was talking about whether we just wanted to make sure that we got those purchased quickly or not. But we do need to, plan for and budget for these things. I think that this would be proposed then to be in the budget for next year. Sanitary sewer. Let's set some money aside for capital, for the Public Works Capital Fund. Okay, top line of the next page, sewer repairs out at Hankey or Outlet 20 in Provost. We had quoted this out with that company about doing those just the point fixes, and there was only like 10 fixes or something like that they would have proposed to do, but it was $51,000 on that. Okay, the issue about wastewater treatment plant demolition. We removed that from the budget for this year. We did not set aside any additional funds for that. But we need to have that discussion too about what happens with that plant. 'Cause we got to do something with it sometime. It's just a question of when.
What's the value of that property as is?
Can't be very high.
See, I'm inclined to tell you it's a negative value if you have to remove the stuff.
You wanna give it to me?
We could have that discussion, Dale, if we want to offer that for, you want to offer the property to somebody with the stipulation that it has to be used for something.
Well, they wouldn't wanna purchase it without
Right.
improving it, I would think.
Just the demolition costs, I think, are dramatic.
I'm sure they're gonna
And,
be.
because you see the stuff that's above ground and just know that everything goes 20 and 30 feet into the ground then too. It's a big undertaking. Manhole repair, there is just a handful of manholes that we're really doing two things, either working on the top end of things so that when you drive over those manholes that have sunk a little bit, We can do the rings to fix the top in it. That's a pretty inexpensive fix. There's a few of the manholes themselves, especially old brick ones, that some of the bricks are falling in, and you just need to do the concrete cast on the inside.
Lining inside.
Lift station upgrade, we proposed $40,000 again, like we have for the past years. Okay, there's the notion there about that Highway 175 drainage and wanting to do something there. So again, we need to have that as its own discussion item about really what you'd like to see happen and what steps can we take to move forward. Okay, sweeper, we propose to set some money aside again this year. The sweeper would be proposed to be purchased in year 2. So that would have it being purchased sometime around July of '24.
Can we make it that long?
What say you?
I would rather, if there's a way to get it before, because it's gonna start nickel and diming.
It's been nickel and diamond since
Yes,
I've been on the
even
force.
more though.
How long has that been? Long time.
Long time.
There may be somebody that wants it now. I don't know who, because
Let's look, I think we need to look at our options on that. We're looking at it seriously at budget time. We can talk about that.
Look for lease purchase plan,
Yeah, if we even have to do that, it's,
stretch it out for that
we
one
can
too.
favor something like that.
Okay, a couple of things that have to happen here for this upcoming budget about our annual payment for the street patching project from last year. And then the bridge engineering, we would look to get the engineering done this upcoming year, because we'd look at the project hopefully to be in '24.
Was the county gonna help us?
We'll get a grant for that. Did we get a grant for that?
For the construction of the bridge, yeah.
Not
Yeah,
engineering.
and the engineering, no.
No.
It's,
So were we gonna work with, I think that was your question.
yeah, we are working with the county on that. This is, 75 was the total amount of design engineering, so that is the most that it should be.
But I think you were talking about working with the county engineer to design it for us, right?
Yeah, but whatever, we have
But you
to,
can't.
He was not too excited about doing the design, because he said they don't design at all. But we will work with them about the notion of cost share.
we were to ask.
So, they're starting the budget process too, so you get that.
Yep, so as far as a street project, this does not propose to have a street project this upcoming year. We did have some proposals on crack sealing or seal coating and fogging. So there's some alternatives there about what we might do for some extended maintenance type of work, if we want to look at something this year. Otherwise, we really don't have a lot of funds for a big street project this year. We would look to do a project every other year, so you'll see it would be listed in year 2. This does have Outlot 20. There, again, holding a cost for what the street would be. That $125,000, that was the city's portion of what was proposed before. It's not the entire cost of that. Intake and manhole repair, we do want to continue to do some of those repairs on those storm sewer intakes also. Water, of course, the capital fund, and then water plant maintenance. And this is just general, would be an item in their water department budget for this $30,000. You know that the operating costs at the water plant are going higher and significantly higher. We need to make sure that we've accounted for some of those funds. Removing the deposits from the clear well, that would bring that dive team back in to do that. Estimates at $7,500. Okay. Then this does have some cost in there about providing a water system to Outlot 20 or providing a water system to Liquid Partners. again, those are the numbers that we utilized for last year. But, you know, especially on Outlot 20, we don't even have a design about what it might look like. So the cost is really unknown. Replacing meters as needed. We want to make sure that we budget some money, we can buy a substantial amount of meters. Rebuild and replace those fire hydrants, and continue with valve replacement on that one too. Your comments on year one of the plan?
Back up to the Outlot 20 Street.
Okay.
If this deal falls through with the current developers, can we, when we bring on a new developer, can we negotiate that part of it out of it?
We can start all over.
Yeah,
Well, that's
I mean,
what-
you're just starting with a blank slate.
You're right. I mean, you're talking
So
about
that's why I say, you don't even know what the
$125,000.
use of the property would be. then,
Right.
You know. So, wanna keep that, I think, in the front of mind that we would have, certainly, potentially have some costs associated with that, but you just don't know what it's gonna be.
Right.
We go to year two, there's just a couple things that I'm gonna point out. We're not gonna go through everything. Where it says replace the F-350, that was done in the first year, that gets taken out. Fire department, we would, in year two, we propose to start replacing that bunker gear. This would have a 3-year replacement then of all bunker gear for the fire department. Now, and then in parks, it does say here and about providing some additional sewer to campsites. So really that would be the goal, to have to get a project together that we could do and prepare to be done for, not this spring, but the following spring. About whether that's sewer, whether that's electric upgrades, whether that is change space sizes and do some concrete pads, whatever it might look like. We're really at the beginning of that project development there then too. What else could I answer any questions then about the rest of it? As you get into years 3, 4, and 5, it gets to be routine, as in we buy a cop car every 2 years. And we'll do a street project every 2 years, do maintenance the other year. You know, that's how it's shown in the plan. But of course, as you get to the farther out years, it's just much more subject to change also.
This year 3 is so routine, we self-advertise.
A couple things, you know, you talk about routine stuff. Vehicles now are lasting a lot longer. That might be something to look at every 3rd year rotation, like the cop car.
Okay.
I noticed on how many, that Durango doesn't have a lot of, to speak of, doesn't have a lot of miles on it.
Over the truck right now, we just got it, this early summer, and we're dating 20,000 miles on it.
Yeah, that's, in today's world, that's not a lot of miles.
The issue is they're all town miles, they're stopping and going, a lot of idle time on those being in town, especially in the winter time when it's really
Right,
cold.
yeah. I'm just saying that, you know, something to look at overall, but we could look at maybe a 3-year rotation. Or every 3rd year get a new one, right? It's just an idea. I wanna make sure we have good equipment, but at some point in time, we've only got so much to work with.
And any other questions, any comments?
Yeah, you know, one thing we talked about last year, something that's heavily used, is that Camp Crescent dock.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Replacing that.
We're looking at something anyway.
Something that will save the boats.
Well, and
Right.
people using it and not getting hurt, whatever we gotta look at, does that make sense?
It's used a lot.
It's heavily used, and it's, you know, we talk about promoting tourism and visitation and stuff, you wanna have something decent there.
And that's,
standard or maybe the preferred type of dock that we would look at? Is it a floating dock then?
I don't know the answer to that, because I would say you want somebody else's opinion besides mine on that. I do not like the floating docks. That's me.
But, you know, that's something we should discuss, or look at, like up at the lakes or something, you know, what they use. Their lake's a lot deeper, you know, they probably can't use a
wheeled one.
They use,
a wheeled
I
one.
think they do use it.
Do they?
You know, that lake is totally different than our lake,
Well,
all
that's
the way
what I'm
around
saying,
the
yeah.
docks. They use the pound-in post ones. mostly.
Right, yeah.
You know, more heavy than we do in our lake. But I don't know, you know, we gotta make sure we have that on grade in between the existing
Ramps.
ramps. You know, it might be something that we look at somebody engineering us a dock to wheel in, that fits in there.
Isn't there a hole that we hit once in a while?
I've heard that.
They always say there's a hole or a
There's
big old
a
rock.
hole where the tires sit, and if you're off at all, it tends to tilt a little bit, or kick off to one side.
I don't know the answer to
We
fix
should
that either.
probably have
I don't either.
find somebody to take a look at it and see what we need.
Or see what work with somebody like
Good.
Ben or Sean, is it Sean?
Yeah, we'll work with the DNR on that, or work with
Yeah, that's
Jason
what I
on
was
that
just
too,
gonna say.
so.
Put the wheels in different attitudes with raft.
Yeah.
We're not fun with the wheels better.
Or you do some type of dock with a permanent post out there at the end, you know. I think there's other options, but I think it's something we need to look at, and now's the time to start talking about it before.
Because everything takes a while.
That was one thing that we could, I'm trying to think, what else were we talking about? We haven't got to, that'd be a different time.
But being you're good at finding people, we need somebody to put that each roof on, the roof has to be a cedar roof, has to have spacing or something. We can never find anybody to do it.
I was thinking while we were going through that, Rick Nelson would be the perfect guy if he'd be willing to do it. Or the other one is Jake McCormick.
Oh, really?
You would know about the cedar, supposedly the cedar has to breathe.
Don't you think they, either one of them two would know?
Yeah, and you talk about cedar, and I look at John Quinn's house down here. That's only, I think, the third set of shingles that's been on that house since it was new. And it's been, 12, 15 years since this last set's been on there. But what they do is before they put them on, they soak them in a tub of some sort of solution, and then and you're right, they do have to breathe right.
Yeah, there's something
You
about,
got spacing right, and I've never put them on, you know, for a full roof, but,
that east side, well, the team was gonna do it, but then he passed away.
well, yeah.
He knew how to do it.
I wouldn't be afraid to reach out to either one of them two to see if they'd have any interest in it. It's not a large project, yet it's a meticulous project that they're,
And we've kicked this down the road a couple of years, we need to figure it
Yeah.
out, get that done.
There should be grants for that, shouldn't there?
If you're gonna do it in proper historic preservation type stuff, just when you do that, the cost just goes straight through the roof.
so you need an old guy to do it.
You know?
Yeah, and I would be, ask Chris Brotherton if he's talked to him, if he has any ideas on what we do it.
Yeah,
Motion for adjournment?
No, Dean, how, you got a list for this next couple
No, I
weeks?
did, I forgot all about getting a list today. So,
How'd you come on last month, or last
well,
meeting's list?
I don't have that in front of me, I can't remember what I had on there.
I brought it with me, paint office shop,
We started cleaning it so we can paint it. And then, we got the 2 doors on down at,
the water plant
the water
today.
plant, but most of our stuff was pushing snow the last couple weeks and then
Understand,
fixing the
yeah.
trucks and stuff.
Yeah, holidays,
And then the holidays, well, we worked Christmas. Everybody, well, not everybody, but 3 of us worked all 4 days of that weekend. So, a lot of stuff got pushed off, and we had to fix the trucks again and stuff.
What broke on the trucks?
Well, the white one, the spout broke, got a crack in it, so we had to fix that. And just leaks, the white truck, broke a cable, so we couldn't lift the box up. And so we got that fixed and,
I know the white truck has that wing on it.
yes,
It was never down, we always had another truck following. Don't feel safe having the wing down in town? or-
Lester was doing that one that day and he wasn't quite sure that he just started driving that,
Okay.
so.
I know that was one of the things you talked about when we bought it, you'd like that wing, so we
Yes.
wouldn't have to have that happen.
Yep.
And then maintainer. Are we not using that?
Now if we got that white truck right now.
What's the difference of the white truck without the wing or the maintainer without the wing? I'm just asking a question.
As far as,
Well, the white truck has a blade underneath.
yes,
That's why you're talking to use it instead of maintainer.
yes, and the wing that's on the truck, the wing stuff back instead of using the maintainer.
So are we working on training anybody to run the maintainer?
Lester said he would.
I just had a few people ask me about it, and I think the mayor has too.
Mm-hmm.
Snow removal is very important to our
But then we
people.
don't have enough, we wouldn't have enough people to run the skid loader, the backhoe, the 3 dump trucks, the maintainer, plus the electric guys, doing the sidewalks and stuff. And we'd like to,
How'd we do it before?
Well, we had Larry Hauser, that's with
and we didn't have that 3rd dump truck. We only had 2 dump trucks.
I didn't think he was gonna be using that other dump truck, I thought he was gonna be down to.
It's, if I can go out around the lake with the white truck and get everything done out there, the other 2 trucks are in town running and getting everything opened up in town.
And then on that, I don't know what we would call that we bought with that white truck. Applicator,
Oh, you mean the
the
brine?
brine thing.
Yeah, we've used that.
Yeah, I know, but you mentioned one time about getting some airbags put on, but you had to get it empty first.
Well, we gotta get the airbags. Lester got the numbers. He's just gotta get with Kay to order them through Amazon, cause they'll be cheaper than going through the parts store.
One other thing before somebody makes a motion, because I never pointed this out to you, was sitting at your desk tonight, but I think these things are always interesting. There's our new taxable valuation numbers for next year.
Were the other ones that did good?
I don't know if it's doing good or not.
And, yeah, you know, the hell of it is, I tell you, the residential rollback went up 2.5%, or 2.3%.
Good and bad.
And, you know, and that's basically the amount of our increase, other than we have increase in our TIF then too, which isn't accounted for in that. The thing that really catches you off guard is everybody else had a decrease.
Yeah.
That is unheard of. I don't know what the deal is there.
How did Sac City go down so
No. Now, I would tell you, there's a change in the way that commercial property is assessed. So for any business, you know, it used to be that there was a tax credit there, they had to apply for it. But now it's not a tax credit, not an application process anymore. Everybody just gets it automatically. So the first $150,000 of the valuation of any commercial business is taxed at residential rate, which is residential rollback on it then. And then only after 150 does it go up to the 90% rollback for commercial. So that's a big impact then on what the commercial property taxes are. You know, I guess the good news is we still see modest growth, which is great.
Dale, you move to adjourn?
Is that yes?
Second?
I think that's
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
50 million, so their population
I was
is.
afraid you weren't gonna get your second there first.
twice as high as what we are.